There exists a kind of man that the world rarely understands. He walks among others, yet he belongs to none. He listens, but seldom speaks. He observes, but reveals little. His presence is both unsettling and magnetic. He is the man who has no friends and walks alone, not because he despises company, but because he has outgrown the illusions that bind most men together. His solitude is not the result of rejection, it is a deliberate act of clarity. When he speaks, people sense the sharpness of his mind, the cold precision of his reasoning, and they recoil, for truth often feels like cruelty to those addicted to comfort. To walk alone is to see clearly. The man who stands apart understands the secret mechanics of society, how most alliances are built not on loyalty but on need, not on affection but on advantage. He sees how men pretend friendship while their eyes measure opportunity. He has watched hands shake in false sincerity, smiles conceal envy, and promises dissolve at the first scent of gain. Such a man learns that solitude is safer than the company of fools, and silence is wiser than speeches in the court of hypocrisy. Most men cannot endure their own thoughts. They need the noise of others to drown the echo of their emptiness. They mistake social validation for worth, thinking the applause of the many is proof of greatness. The solitary man knows better. He has confronted his own mind in the darkness, stripped of distraction. He has wrestled with his fears and desires until he emerged sharper, cleaner, unafraid. Where others seek mirrors in the eyes of others, he finds reflection in his own judgment. It is not arrogance that isolates him, it is independence. This kind of man learns early that to depend on others for peace is to build a fortress from sand. The approval of men shifts like the tide. One day they praise you, the next they condemn you, according to the needs of their envy. To live above this fluctuation, one must be self-contained. So he withdraws. He learns to generate his own strength. His solitude becomes a laboratory of power, where he studies human nature not to condemn it, but to master it. Every betrayal he has witnessed becomes a lesson. Every silence he has endured sharpens his patience. And yet, his loneliness is not without cost. He feels the chill of detachment, the hunger for understanding that the crowd can never satisfy. He sees too much. The small betrayals hidden in gestures, the masks people wear to appear kind, the selfishness clothed in virtue. He is not bitter, only awake. For once a man sees humanity without illusion, he cannot unsee it. The cost of awareness is isolation. But that isolation, once accepted, becomes his kingdom. In solitude he learns control, he learns discipline. He learns that the man who walks alone walks the straightest path, free from the deceit of companionship and the corruption of collective weakness. The man who walks alone eventually discovers that isolation, when endured long enough, becomes a weapon. What once felt like exile transforms into command. He is no longer distracted by the voices of others, their fears, their gossip, their opinions. The solitude that once seemed a prison reveals itself as a fortress. From there, he observes the movements of men like a strategist watching an enemy camp. He learns that while others crave company, he can operate unseen. While they waste their strength seeking approval, he preserves his energy for precision. This detachment grants him an advantage that few can perceive, for influence requires distance. Only from the outside can one see the strings that move the crowd. The ordinary man depends on the collective. His emotions are a reflection of those around him. He laughs when others laugh. He feels rage when the crowd feels rage. And he calls this shared weakness connection. The man who has walked away from such contagion no longer bends to this rhythm. His emotions are his own. His thoughts are his own. He measures his actions not by morality, but by result. Where others drown in sentiment, he sails on the calm waters of logic. To most, he appears cold, yet this coldness is clarity. It is the calm that exists when noise dies and only truth remains. His isolation breeds a unique form of power, not the power of dominance, but the power of perception. He sees the vanity that drives men to destroy themselves. He watches them compete for recognition, exhausting themselves in battles that lead nowhere. He understands that every man hungers to be seen, to be admired, to be remembered, and this hunger makes them predictable. The man who has no friends is bound by none of these needs. That freedom makes him dangerous. He can blend in or disappear at will. He can manipulate the flow of loyalty, not by demanding it, but by remaining indifferent to it. Those who seek his approval end up serving his silence. There is a strange magnetism to his detachment. The more he withdraws, the more others are drawn to him. They sense something unshakable in his composure, a mystery in his restraint. People long to be understood by such a man, yet he remains unreadable. He listens without judgment, speaks without flattery, and acts without apology. His stillness unsettles those who thrive on attention. It mirrors their insecurity. They feel small in his presence because he does not need what they crave. The absence of need is the presence of power. But solitude is not without danger. When a man is alone too long, he risks turning into his own adversary. His thoughts can become his battlefield, his mind both weapon and wound. Yet the one who endures this trial without breaking emerges tempered, like steel through fire. He learns mastery over impulse, over doubt, over the chaos within. Such a man no longer reacts, he chooses. And choice, born of solitude and sharpened by awareness, is the purest form of freedom. When the man who walks alone finally steps back into the world, he does not return as he once was. Solitude has restructured his mind. He no longer seeks belonging, he seeks observation. Every encounter becomes a study, every conversation a mirror reflecting the inner mechanics of the human soul. He no longer desires to be understood. That need died in silence. Now he desires to understand, for knowledge is power, and emotional control is its foundation. The crowd rushes through life reacting. He responds with precision. The difference is invisible to most, yet it defines the hierarchy of power. Those who react become predictable. Those who observe become untouchable. He moves through social circles like a shadow. People feel his presence before they comprehend it. He speaks little, but when he does, his words land with the weight of inevitability. His calmness disarms, his silence provokes curiosity, and his independence inspires both admiration and unease. In every room, he is the quiet center around which chaos spins. Others try to read him, to provoke him, to draw him into their world of emotional exchanges. But they fail. He has become immune to their hooks. He does not need validation, and that makes him immune to manipulation. In a world ruled by emotional currency, indifference is the rarest wealth. People reveal themselves easily to a man who listens but does not compete. They pour out their ambitions, fears, betrayals, all while he simply observes. He watches them betray their own secrets for a moment of attention. He sees through the layers of pretense that men use to survive in the social jungle. He learns to map their weaknesses, the thirst for admiration, the terror of being forgotten, the desperate need to belong. These are the chains that control the masses, invisible yet unbreakable. The man who walks alone has none of them. That is why he cannot be owned, bribed, or blackmailed. His isolation becomes a mirror that exposes others. When they stand before his composure, they see their own instability. His self-control mocks their impulsiveness. His silence amplifies their noise. They cannot decide whether to fear him or to follow him. Some hate him for reminding them of their weakness. Others admire him for embodying what they cannot become. Either way, he controls the dynamic without effort. The most dangerous kind of authority is the one that does not announce itself. It simply exists, and others submit to it without realizing why. The man who walks alone no longer lives by the rules of affection or approval. He navigates through power, understanding that emotions are the strings that move men, and knowledge of those strings is dominion. He manipulates not through deceit, but through absence, the absence of need, the absence of dependence. While others chase alliances, he lets alliances chase him. His solitude has become a throne carved from discipline. He is no longer just alone. He is sovereign within himself. But the world does not easily tolerate the man who walks alone. His very existence is a quiet rebellion. Those who depend on approval cannot comprehend someone who does not. Those who find safety in numbers will always resent the one who stands apart, so they begin to test him, subtly at first, then openly. They whisper that he is cold, arrogant, detached. They try to draw him into their games of rivalry and gossip, to force him back into the web he escaped. The world loves conformity, for it fears reflection, and this man's independence is a mirror that exposes the weakness of the collective. He does not resist them with anger, he resists them with stillness. They attack, and he remains calm. They insult, and he smiles faintly. They exclude him, and he continues as though nothing has changed. That indifference is his most dangerous quality. It kills the power of those who try to harm him. Their schemes depend on reaction. His silence robs them of meaning. Where others lose control defending their reputation, he preserves his power through restraint. In this he understands a great truth: he who cannot be provoked cannot be defeated. Isolation has trained him to rely on no one, and that makes him immune to the betrayals that destroy ordinary men. When trust is currency, betrayal is inevitable. But a man who places his trust only in his discipline cannot be betrayed. He builds his strength from within, not from the shifting loyalties of others. While the world burns with envy, competition, and desire, he moves through it like a spectre, untouchable, composed, deliberate. People sense this difference, and it unsettles them. Some are drawn to it, mistaking it for mystery. Others despise it, mistaking it for arrogance. Yet neither perception affects him, because he has learned that perception itself is a game of power. The man who walks alone begins to see the deeper cost of solitude. He can no longer return to ignorance, the simplicity of friendship, the illusion of unconditional love, the comfort of belonging. All of it has lost its taste. Once the curtain of human nature has been pulled back, innocence cannot be reclaimed. This is the silent tragedy of awareness. It grants vision but steals peace. And yet he would not trade it, for he understands that blindness is a sweeter form of slavery. Freedom, though lonely, is worth the solitude it demands. In this stage of his journey, he no longer seeks to escape loneliness. He turns it into discipline. Each day of silence sharpens him further. Each rejection reminds him of his autonomy. Each act of malice from others strengthens his armor. The man who walks alone learns that true power is not the ability to control others. It is the ability to remain unmoved when others attempt to control you. His isolation has forged something incorruptible inside him, the will to stand alone, not in defiance, but in mastery. In the final stage of his evolution, the man who walks alone no longer views solitude as burden or defense. It becomes his art. The silence that once separated him from the world now connects him to something far greater than the world itself. In solitude, he no longer seeks survival, he seeks understanding. He has learned that power without purpose is emptiness, and awareness without direction is torment. So he begins to shape his solitude into something productive, something that transcends the mere act of withdrawal. The time he once spent observing others, he now spends mastering himself. He refines his mind like a craftsman sharpens a blade. Every weakness that once ruled him, pride, fear, anger, attachment, becomes material for transformation. The same loneliness that crushed weaker men now serves as the fire that tempers his character. He no longer wishes to dominate others. He wishes to dominate the forces within that once chained him to them. He understands now that men seek control over others only because they lack control over themselves. Once he conquered his own emotions, the need for conquest vanished. What remains is something quieter, something deeper, sovereignty of the spirit. He has become the kind of man who moves through the world as if he owes it nothing. He no longer reacts to praise or insult. He has detached his worth from recognition. Whether he is admired or forgotten is irrelevant. The man who walks alone measures his life, not by the noise he makes, but by the strength of his silence. Others spend their lives trying to be seen. He has learned the power of invisibility. For invisibility allows him to act freely, unbound by the judgment of the crowd. In that freedom lies the highest form of authority, the authority of a man who answers only to himself. His solitude now radiates, not isolates. Those who cross his path feel something they cannot name, an aura of certainty, an atmosphere of calm that defies the chaos of the world. He teaches no lessons, yet his very being becomes one. The way he carries his silence, the way he endures misunderstanding, the way he remains unmoved by the games of vanity, all these are lessons written in the language of discipline. People who once dismissed him now seek his counsel, though they cannot fully grasp the source of his composure. What they see as mystery is merely mastery, the quiet mastery born of walking alone long enough to meet oneself. And so, the man who has no friends and walks alone is not a man without connection. He is connected to the deeper currents of human nature, to the truth that most avoid. He is not loveless. He simply loves differently, through understanding rather than attachment. He is not arrogant. He is simply beyond the need for validation. His solitude has turned him into a mirror for all who fear their own reflection. In the end, the path of the solitary man is not about escaping others, but about becoming so whole within oneself that the company of others becomes a choice, not a necessity. He walks alone, yes, but not as an exile. He walks as a sovereign, a man who has learned that the highest companionship one can ever possess is the mastery of one's own mind. The world may never understand him, but that is his final triumph. For understanding is what the crowd seeks, transcendence is what he has achieved. He is free utterly, silently, and completely free.